Good evening, everyone. Now today I shall teach you world literature. Sorry, new literatures in English, and we'll be doing the introductory part today, where we'll be seeing what is this new literatures, how did it emerge, and how apparently new countries, new nations came under the umbrella of this new literature, where new writings were addressed, writings were critiqued, and new writings were understood. That means new writing means new writings in English literature of different genres like novel, poetry, dramas and plays, etc. So this will be dealing with today, and if we go a little bit narrow, then we'll be seeing what is Commonwealth literature, and what comes under this new literature, which will be post-colonial literature, which will be Canadian literature. Okay, from different nations, from different locations, all these amalgamations will be dealt with today. So, to start with, uh, we see that language always evolves, language transforms, language transgresses boundaries. That we often see, and for that, different political, sociological variations, they come into account. Okay, is this Avneet joining the class? Okay. Uh, So broadly, we'll be dealing with these areas. Now we see that language is, they change forms, they change shapes. So what we will see that how these changes, differences that will be coming from different locations will merge into the broad area of English literature that will be observing in this particular paper, in this whole block. So we see that uh, we will see different writers from different countries and continents. We'll see from India, we'll deal with the writers like R.K. Narayan. We'll see Khushwant Singh. Okay, and when we go to South Africa, we'll be seeing Soenki, Achibi. Then we'll be seeing Patrick White. We will see Eddie Hope from Australia. Dan David, writers like that we'll see from New Zealand, Earl Burney of Canada, so on and so forth. Then we will see that that these all countries like Africa, India, Australia, New Zealand, all together they are known as the Commonwealth nations writing Commonwealth literature. Okay, now so exactly if I tell you, then the countries under Commonwealth literature include India, Africa, Australia, Yeah, it got discontinued somehow from my side. What I was saying is that um, Commonwealth literature includes nations like India. Is this Reshma joining the class?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, this is Reshma
Uh,
only.
okay, Reshma.
Yeah.
So I was just starting with your new literatures in
Okay, ma'am.
English.
Okay. Actually,
Yeah.
I joined by 6 o'clock. I got late today at work. That's the reason I joined
Okay.
late. Yeah.
Okay, I was just starting. No issues. I have just started, and I was saying that. Are you all set to study, Reshma?
Yeah, yeah, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am. I'm listening, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. So what I was saying that what is this new literature? New literature means initially what we saw in English usually Britain used to write, isn't it? Only English speaking nation used to write English literature, but now mainly we can say broadly we can say that in the post colonial times means after the colonial rule went away, different nations started writing. Okay, like South Africa, our country, India. You see Pakistan, Bangladesh writing, Caribbean writing. Okay, so all these are merging one by one, and they are also coming to the forefront of writing and expressing English, writing and expressing in English. Okay, so this is what is exactly we can say is new literature. Okay, new literature means the countries which were silent as which were silent in writing in English. They used to write in regional languages. We cannot say that before English novels we had no literature. We Indians had no literature. That will be absolutely wrong because India is a country quite wealthy of literature, but we had our regional writings. Okay, so but we did not have English writing, Indian writing in English. That Indian writing in English mainly took its form and shape in the 19th century, from 19th century onwards, and now we can see we are in a good position of writing in English. All right. So so gradually new countries which were silent till now, which were not which were not visible in the global arena of literature, now those countries are also coming to the forefront of Indian writing in English, and they're getting a lot of limelight also. So here you can say that these countries, I told you post-colonial countries, but they're broadly known as Commonwealth nations. Okay, these are the Commonwealth nations, and the literature is post-colonial literature. So in new literature in English, you have Commonwealth literature. You can say post-colonial literature, or you may call it new literatures in English as well. So under this name of Commonwealth literature, you will find many nations coming and joining and writing and showing their stands in English literature. Okay, so broadly you can say that this Commonwealth literature include the writings of India, of South Africa, of Australia, of New Zealand, of Canada, of Pakistan, of Caribbean. Okay, and these writings in English, they are very substantial. They hold a good universal substance within them, and they are read and accepted broadly throughout the whole globe. All right. So this is what we exactly call is new literature in English. Okay, and which goes very much beyond British writings. These can be cross cultural, means this can be between the colonizers and the colonized nations. Like as I told you, like post colonial writings. Okay, they are to some extent or to a large extent they're cross cultural, because these post colonial writing they to a large extent they have this colonizer and colonized perspective in their writing. Okay, so if you read Indian writing, many writers, okay, so they completely show this feature when they talk about the colonized and the colonizer both. Okay, so here we shall see some of these kinds of writings. Okay, now first we see that exactly I'll tell you in broad and very in a very good light, I'll tell you in a very broad light, I'll tell you what is this Commonwealth literature, and from where, how did we get this kind of name, and how it got established, as one of the disciplines of our studies in literature. Okay, so we know that mm, um, the Commonwealth literature, actually you will see that this took its birth and took its name from the United Kingdoms only. Okay, and then if you see 1950s, American Commonwealth got its form and got its name. Then Irish and African literatures were also given this Commonwealth feature. Okay, so actually, what is this Commonwealth literature? Uh, if you see this word provincial, provincial means which is just the opposite of urban. Okay, so when you see the word provincial, then you will see that Commonwealth writings, got this phrase of provincial writings. Okay, which is not urban, which is from the periphery, or which is from the what you call, from the hems of the society and hems of the of an urbanized society. Urbanized society is hem. Okay, the hem, the borders, or you can say the provinces, they actually initiated this word for them as Commonwealth literatures initially. Okay, but they called it like in the two form. They call the urbanized, the highly developed places as metropolis, and the other places which were not the center of the city life, they were the periphery. Metropolis versus the periphery. Okay, so actually, if you say from the post colonial point of view, you can say metropolis is the area of the colonizer, whereas periphery is the location, is the area, is the domain of the colonized. Okay, so so actually the power contained with the metropolis, okay, and the power that was applied was for the periphery. Okay, so, if you see from the post colonial point of view about our country, then you can say that metropolis or metropolitan center was the British country, British location, whereas the periphery was India. Okay. If you talk about the domination of the British upon us, then they were the metropolis, we were the periphery. Okay, so if you see this metropolis and periphery, you will many other ideas also come to the mind. Elite, okay, highly developed, highly cultured, sophisticated, cosmopolitan, highly educated. So many things come when we talk about the center or the metropolis. Okay, when you talk about the provincial, then just the opposite terms come into being, like you can say backward, uncultured, okay, unsophisticated, poor, okay, etc., etc. So many words come into being if you see the center or the metropolis, and if you see the hinges or the periphery. Okay, so this kind of typification was done by the Western academia. Okay, initially when they started, they called the city literature as the center, and these were the periphery. All right. Now later, this, or they call it provincial as well. So if you see the different countries, and if you see the syllabus of different countries, okay, then you will find something different. Means if you move out from England, if you move out to different other countries, or maybe post colonial countries, you will find gradually, you will find that Commonwealth, this term, changes in the academia of mainly post-colonial countries. Suppose if you go to South Africa, okay, and when you see what is when you try to study what is Commonwealth literary studies, the meaning will be different. Okay, so South African studies, they glorify this Commonwealth literature. They feel that some of the best works come from the Commonwealth literature. Okay, because why? Because South Africa is also one of those colonized countries. Okay, so that is why they give a lot of importance to this Commonwealth studies, means which studies about the periphery, or in other words, which studies about them. Okay, which studies about their life, their identities, their existence, and their literature. So Commonwealth for post-colonial countries become different. We give a high regard towards the Commonwealth studies because that is about us. Us means the colonized people. The once colonized people were us. Okay. So, if you see the Commonwealth for we people, for post colonial nations, then it is instrumental for us because it gives us scope for study in the new areas. Okay. Initially studying about England only. Okay. Restricted to England only was uh, the general part of the literature. But gradually, as I told you, when different nations came, when this center and periphery boundary was blurred after post-colonial emergence, then Commonwealth got a lot of respect, got a lot of honor, because it is about not the center, not the English life, but the lives of many other countries. Okay, so we came to know at this point of time that new literature suggests what is not old, whatever is new. And what is new? The newly rising countries. Okay, so the best example is ours. So we are happy, we are fortunate to be one of the best parts of these post colonial nations, where despite we were at the periphery for a long time, but now we have shown our metal. We have shown that how we can be a form of, we can also initiate new literatures. Okay, and we can contribute ourselves to the Commonwealth literature. We are also a part of Commonwealth literature, and where we usually write about our struggles. Okay, how we have striven to excellence, how we have been brave, and how we have fought against all odds to emerge one of the emerging countries of the world. Okay, so if you see, uh, not Commonwealth literature, generally you're doing MA courses now, you must have seen that till now also you see a lot of influence has been uh, formed through these British writings. Okay, and these influences, when you read common literature, you will find that there are some effects of this mainstream British writing has fallen upon Commonwealth literature also. What kind of effect? You will see that if you read Commonwealth literature, you will see the political, the social, the economical influences have taken place in the Commonwealth literature. Okay, so these political, social, and economical influences comes from where? It comes from the center. Which is the center? The erstwhile British colonial empire was the center. So till now, when we write as Commonwealth literature, you will find these effects still present in our writing. What kind of effect? Political, social, and economical effect. You will find it is still there in our writing. Okay, till 1950s and 60s, these influences were found when people were just emerging from the chaos of imperial power. So still they showed a lot of impact, okay, of that British domination in their writing. Now, India and Pakistan, we started emerging as Commonwealth after 1947. All right. Nigeria and Kenya, they got their independence in 1960 and 1963, respectively. Okay. And this West Indian Federation, it was formed in 1960. So you can see that mid to late 20th century, mm, uh, not exactly late, but towards the mid of 20th century, we saw that all these post-colonial nations, they formed this identity of being post colonial. Why? Because they were now free from the colonial clutches. Now they were independent. Now these nations developed independently on their own, with their own economy, with their own politics, with their own identity, on the one hand. On the other hand, when you see literature, then literature also became a free body. We were no more under any spell or under any influence of British power. Okay, direct British power. Though we in our writing immediately after independence, we had that leftover feeling of being dominated, being tortured, being harassed. Okay, those perspectives you will find in their writing, but now we were free to write. Okay, many Indian writers, many Nigerian, Kenyan writers, many Pakistani writers, now they freely open their mind to express about how the people of their nation were treated during before independence. Okay, so these perspectives still prevailed, but they were free from the bondages, free from the clutches of the British power, which means that if you want to write directly and boldly, now you were free. No British power will come to stop you. Okay, which was done earlier. You were under direct scanner of British Empire when you were under their control. You were not free to write. You were not free to express. But now, after independence, we got full freedom to write of our own choice, of our own accord, of the truth that India had suffered or any post-colonial nation had suffered. So these generally became the theme of the Commonwealth literature during the uh, late 20th century or early 21st century. Now, um, okay, now moving on. Now, I'll tell you what is this new literature, and what kind of newness is there in our literature. And our literature means all the Commonwealth literature, which include Kenya, Nigeria, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. Okay, so what kind of newness is there? What perspective is there in our writing? What what different things? What is unique about this new literatures that we'll see here? Now you can see that so new literature, as I told you earlier, that this is the study of, this is the literatures, we can say literatures means of many other locations, many other countries, which were newly independent nations. Okay, this I have already told you. These literatures are coming from the newly independent nations. Okay, so we already saw that colonization was uh, responsible for English to come to our nations. Okay, now we are, when we are talking in English, and when we have so much of courses in our academia in English, it's because of this, that colonization. Okay, colonization brought English to us. Okay, so you can say that colonization, to some extent, to a large extent, it had harmed many parts of our curriculum, many parts of our of our life, of our society. But if you see colonization in on the other side, from the optimistic point of view, you will see that English was brought to us by them, by colonization. Okay, in every regions where it ruled. Okay, So through the language, we come to know about the literature. So through the literature, when we read, we thought of adding new perspective to it. Okay, so we learned when they came to India, they forced us initially to read English, or many of us got gradually interested to read English. So what happened, we started reading in English, we started reading their literature, and now we plan to write in their language. Okay, so we started writing a new language, and we started to exploring. So English language, it brought a new addition to our literature. Previously we had regional writing, now we started writing English literature. But there are many countries where already English was there in many countries. Okay, in different languages they were there, but English got a good form and shape during its during its dominance in different countries like India, Kenya, Nigeria, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. Okay, but you cannot say that, okay, when we started reading their literature, when we started writing in literature, that brought newness. No, no, that is not it. But if you see the common term of Commonwealth literature, okay, you will see, if you read the Commonwealth literature very broadly, you will see that some kind of assimilation had taken place. Okay, uh, assimilation means that we had our lifestyle, we represented when we wrote literature, we wrote in English, but we had a different twist in our language, in our linguistic methods. Okay, in our stylistics, there were changes, there were twists, they were Indianized, and had our own, we made our own English according to our needs, according to our readers, and then we represented our situation. Okay, we did not copy their style of expression, of writing. We developed our method, our style, our perspective, though we wrote in English. Okay, that is why this is new literature. Not only it comes from different countries, but it talks about a, a great deal about their nations, from where it is coming. It is talking about how they use English language, how they experiment with that language, how they they form their own language, like we Indianized English. Okay, so how different Commonwealth countries, they assimilated with English, or how English assimilated with their culture, with their society, with their languages, and how they produce novel. That is something new. You need to understand this. Okay, so that is what is exactly new literatures in English. So this all came to be the new perspectives of English, and that is why this whole ideas of newness, freshness, which was brought to English literature, which got added to English literature, that became new literatures in English. Okay. Now we will see exactly what is this post-coloniality, what is post-colonial theory, and what is this politics behind all these post-colonial issues. We are talking a lot nowadays. Okay, wherever you go for seminars, whenever you go for conferences, post-colonial theories are very much there, very much present with every in every dissertation, in every conference talk. So exactly what is behind this, and what is the politics behind all these post-colonial theories, we'll discuss that. Okay, now if you see post-colonial, okay, if you make a hyphenated post-colonial, then it shows that you know those national cultures, okay, those national cultures are represented, okay, which were once occupied by the British, but now those British, those imperial power have departed. Okay, this British imperial power have departed, and now our national culture has taken a new form, a new shape after their departure. Okay, they have left, but the essence is still there. Okay, many of us, we have been already accustomed to their culture, to their lifestyle. We studied English. Okay, so this is what all includes in the post colonial perspectives. They have gone. So, exactly, if you say that post colonial, this time span, you can see that, it is between the periods before and after independence. Okay, like pre-colonial we say, and post-colonial. Pre-colonial, colonial period, and post-colonial period. Okay, so usually when we talk about post-colonial, we usually say colonial period and post-colonial period. Okay, and these two periods were very important. Earlier, before British came, our ethnography was different, our culture was different, our whole the makeup of our society was different. But from colonial to post colonial period, there were changes. Like, for example, we had our own literary histories. Okay, from colonial period, uh, देखो, before colonial period, nobody wrote in English in our country. Okay, there was no influence of English at all in our country. Okay, our country before British came was, in our country, the basic languages that we used was Hindi, Sanskrit, Arabic. Okay, and Hindi was also the part of, just like Hindi. Okay, old Hindi. So these were the major languages, and if you go down to the Dravidian states, then to the so-called Dravidian states, if you go down, you will see them using their languages: Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, whatever is there till now. Okay, so that is unchanged. And towards the northern part of the subcontinent, usually Hindi, Urdu, Arabic, and Sanskrit was spoken. Okay, so these were the major languages. But when English came, things changed. So English came means from colonial period. From colonial period onwards, Indians also started writing in English. Okay, from then, from Raj Mohan's wife. Okay, that first English novel was written in 19th century. Okay, so from then till now, we have been writing in English. English is evolving. English is taking its Indian form, and it has already taken Indian form. So what is there now? Now we can see, from colonial to post-colonial period, we have our own national literary history. Okay, or you can say that we have our whole body of comparative study also. Means, when you are comparing the literature of different languages, okay, that also has been developed in our country. So now we are using the word post colonial, okay, to show that what are the effects of the imperial processes. Okay, imperial power, when it came, what differences did it bring? Okay, what changes, for good or for bad, whatever it brought to us, when we write about that, then that literature becomes post colonial. Okay, so here, actually, it is trying to appropriate that, that when you give the name like new cross cultural work. Okay, so cross cultural means when you are writing about your culture and about the about the colonizer's culture, so that becomes cross cultural. Okay, so that kind of literature also became a part of post colonial literature, and also part of our communal literature. Now, moving on. Uh, Now, when new literatures evolved, they formed different branches. Okay, So different new forms started taking place. Okay, for example, when this great writing was published by Edward Said, Orientalism. Okay, now it brought a lot of curiosity, a lot of uh, critical interest from the side of the reader. Okay, so Edward Said's Orientalism was one of the foundational texts of postcolonial theory. Please remember this. Edward Said, Edward, Edward Said, Said, he wrote Orientalism. Okay, a work called Orientalism. Now, his book, Orientalism, okay, it is one of the starting points where through literary expressions, okay, post-colonial theory was projected. He actually, gave us the exact definition of post-colonial theories. Okay, so exactly he gave us the, he demarcated. Edward said in his book Orientalism, exactly he pinpointed, okay, or you can say he constructed the whole area of Orient and the Occident. Orient means we people, okay, and Occidents are the Western discourses, the Western theories. Okay, so Edward said in that book, he says that, okay, European people, they wrote about European people, they wrote about us means we Orients. Okay, they, somehow managed. That was not a true picture that they tried to show about us, but to some extent, they were writing about us. Okay, European people us if I say narrowly about, say for example, Indians, they were writing about us. They were writing about our our culture, our lifestyle, the kind of spirituality we believed in, but they somehow expressed, it was not clear, it was not exact. Okay, it was from the Western point of view. From Western point of view, they they framed a picture of the East in their writings. Okay, so uh, you can say that Said's work will be a part of what you call colonial discourse. Okay, but you can see that he is completely directing his attention to the exact meaning of what Oriental is. Okay, so Oriental exactly he says is the first phase of post-colonial theory. Okay, so and then later there's this African writer Franz Fanon. He started writing a little. He went ahead and he said that how he talked about the feelings, the emotions, the kind of the mm, what you say, the kind of feelings one contains towards the post-colonial people, and how post-colonial react to the colonial imperialism. That is what is represented by Franz Fanon. So overall, I can say that Franz Fanon, the African writer, he says that we are so much, we means the colonized people, we are so much burdened by the domination of the colonizers that we want to pretend like them, we want to imitate them. Okay, we want to be like them. Okay, which is all wrong. Okay, so the amount of sophistication those colonizers have shown us is exactly their sophistication, Western sophistication, that is not ours. Okay, we are not them. Okay, we cannot become them. We are ourselves. So Franz Fanon gives a clear message that you are you. Try to remain what you are. Even though if it is African culture, what they said is not right. They said that it is a barbarian culture. It is not right. You have your own culture. You have your own identity. Try to preserve it. Okay. Try to modify it if you feel something wrong, but be what you are. Don't imitate. Don't imitate from the white. So don't try to hold a wrong mask on your face. Okay. So he wrote white face and black mask. That was what Franz Ferdinand written, and he had expressed his point of view about one's identity that comes from one culture, which should be respected, which should be honored, and which should be a matter of pride for the person. Then later, see, this was initiated by Edward Said, but later Franz Fanon wrote. Then here is a Kenyan activist, Gugi Wathiong. Okay, he also wrote a lot of things, and a lot of the textual emphasis of one's own writings of one's own country. Okay, then if you see, uh, then a new colonial phase came up, and during this phase, many writers from India, from Africa, from Pakistan, from Bangladesh also they started to explore the post-colonial identities from their own location. Like we talk about post-colonial identity from one location, from India. A person from South Africa will, it writes about uh, South Africa from his own perspective. Okay, so slowly we got a huge body of post-colonial literature coming from various other countries, post-colonial countries. Now, under this also comes diasporic literature. Okay, you call it high theory also. Okay, diasporic literature means, suppose uh, uh, we Indians, we saw globalization during 1970s, was probably 19 after 1970s. We see that people started migrating, people started moving to different countries for, for better lifestyle, for better economic gains. Okay, suppose we are third world nations and we move to first world nations in order to, in order to make our lifestyle better. So these people, when they moved out of, not only lifestyle for lifestyle, but due to many other reasons, like a woman had to get married off. So when their parents choose a groom from some other country, maybe Indian but living in other countries, so the bride has to follow. Or suppose one has to work because after independence things were difficult. Okay, after independence you saw a lot of disturbance, a lot of violence because of partition, India Pakistan partition. Then again there was disturbance because of Bangladesh and Pakistan formation. When East Bengal broke up, uh, broke up into two pieces, and one became Pakistan and other became Bangladesh. Okay, so there were continuous disturbances. So many people, especially after independence and also during this after globalization, people got scope, okay, to move out. So India, although it got independence, but it was a big huge country. Government was formed, but it was little difficult because it is such a huge country. Till now we are having difficulties with everything because of the huge size and shape of the nation. Okay, and it is very difficult for the leaders and for the for the statesmen, for ministers to take care of overall needs of the people. It is quite difficult because you can see that we are ethnographically we are so different, culturally we are so different, so we are multicultural country with so many cultures. So you can see that politically also it is very difficult to keep things intact, to keep things in order. And after independence, when things became bad to worse because of riots and violences because of partition, so after that, when people got scope to move out, mainly after globalization, so they started moving out. Okay, because they had to take care of the family. So people started moving out to make an earning. They migrated. So, and when these people migrated to different other countries, and when they, from that location, when they wrote literature, that's what you call diasporic literature. Okay, means Indian, or you can say expatriate person going outside India, migrating due to some reason. Okay, and then writing about about his new experiences, and also connecting himself to the roots. Okay. So that becomes post-colonial, sorry, diasporic literature. That also comes under post-colonial literature. Now, in India, we have, critics who formed theories of diasporic theories, Homi Bhabha, Edward Said, and Gayatri Spivak. Okay, so they completely formed a theory of post coloniality. Okay, and they charted out, they chalked out, they gave exact meaning so that Western readers can understand what is this post coloniality, what kind of feeling it is, what theory it is, what is the politics involved. So these writers, mainly Homi Bhabha, Gayatri Spivak, and as you know, Edward said, gave proper form and shape to post-colonial theory, so that Western readers could understand. Okay. Also, U.S. academia could grasp what is it. So these are the three main contributors of post-colonial theories. Okay. And these theories, they exactly pointed us out what is this third world country, third world theorization. I think you know what is third world country. Third world country means the countries which had British domination. Okay, they went, and we remained a little behind economically. So this is third world country. Second world country is mainly the socialist country like Russia. And I think first world country, um, Europe and US. Okay. Now, uh, so the third one, they exactly gave the theory of why we remain. If you read Can Subaltern Speak of Gayatri Spivak, you will exactly find that how broadly she is writing and explaining what is this third world. Okay, and what is the position of a person belonging to the third world. Okay, how this person belonging to the third world, he is also struggling to occupy one location. Okay, which you can say is a comfortable location, and in search of location, sometimes he migrates. Okay, and he adopts the location of the first one of the colonizers. Very broadly she has written, and from here we started with the discussion of diaspora. Okay, so where what is location, what is, again coming to the my initial words that I was saying, center and periphery. Who is take considered as center and who could be considered as periphery? Will you always consider first world as the center and me as the periphery, third world? No. Now, post coloniality means some opposite may happen. I can be center, because once upon a time, I was treated badly. I had suffered. Okay, so the story can revolve around me as a servant. Okay, but previously in British literature, what you will see, only people of great name, great fame, okay, colonizers, they form the center of the any story. But now, especially Bhabha, Spivak, mainly Bhabha, Homi Bhabha, and Spivak, they said that no, periphery can be center, and center can be periphery. Okay, we can read the whole story from the colonized point of view as well. Okay, this is how a new discussion came into being, and this also becomes a part of new literatures. Okay, because new literature doesn't only mean new countries coming up, but new perspectives coming up, new theories coming up, new ideas coming up. Okay, so that also can form the newness of the literature that came, and this is about identity. This is about location. Okay, so, what was once a periphery now comes to the center. We will scan this character now, the colonized character now, the subjugated character now. So, through this essay, Can the Subaltern Speak? Subaltern is Subaltern, subaltern speak. Spivak is self reflexive. Okay, and she is determining, she is investigating her role in the academia. Okay, because she is female. So she is talking from the female point of view. Okay, a female subaltern, female plus subaltern. Subaltern, you can say somewhat post colonial, or which was once in the periphery, and and female. Okay, means doubly in the periphery. Okay, due to culture, due to location, she is in the periphery because she comes from the colonized country. Secondly, in gender also, she is the second sex, the woman. So, how a female subaltern is subjected to express herself is questioned by Gayatri Spivak because she puts a question mark. Can the subaltern speak? Okay, there's a question mark here. All right. So here also you see that not only we see the subaltern or the subjugated self, but also we see a new feminist study emerging. Okay, so feminist study also now comes under the rescue of post-colonial theories. Okay, now as I was telling you, that there are different countries coming and they are forming this whole umbrella of post-colonial literature. Similarly, Africa also you will see as a post-colonial nation where a lot of politics is also involved in the formation of their own theory, in the formation of their own literature, and in the formation of their own identity. Okay, because apart from being post colonial, they also have to bear the brunt of their color. Okay, which involves a lot of racism. That again complicates the case more than we Indians. Okay, because of the complexion, there's a lot of feelings involved in the politics of, we can say, color, or in the politics of culture. Okay, so in Africa you will see um, it has been directly affected by their particular language. Okay, because here you see that their location, in their different location, different languages are also spoken. They speak Swahili, they speak Kikuyu, they speak Igbo, and many other uh, vernaculars. Okay, and then when British came into their land, so they also got influenced by English. Okay, so these different languages are now means of education. Okay, and right, how these writers, when we are talking about literature, then how African writers, particularly from Kenya and Nigeria, remember, these writers, they come mainly from Kenya and Nigeria, how they react to the choice. Okay, like for us, there was a choice. Suppose when we got a lot of influence from British, with special respect to the English language, we initially started writing in English. Okay, Ram Mohan Roy was written in English. Okay, because initially we got lot of fascinated by the language, but gradually we understood that no, this is not our language. So Bankim Chandra, he wrote Rajmohan Roy in English, but then he understood that no, that is not my language, that is the language of the colonizer. Why should I write? So though Bankim Chandra mastered English, though he had written one novel in English, still he did not continue. He chose to write in Bengali, his regional language. Okay, the language which was his mother tongue. Similarly, if you see Tagore, or later if you see even Premchand and Mulkraj Anand, okay, they rejected and they started writing in their language. Like for Rabindranath Tagore, he was such highly educated in English, but many writings he has done in Bengali. Okay. So it was a kind of revolt. Why their language? Why not ours? Okay. So they understood that kind of hegemony that British imperial power was trying to impose, was trying to boast. Okay. So these people gradually understood that no, though we learn English, though we have mastery, but we won't use. We will use our language. So Premchand, he wrote in Urdu, Hindi. Mulk Raj Anand also did the similar thing. He wrote in mostly in Hindi. Okay, so gradually the writers that came, they started to, as a form of protest, they did not write in their language, which was later translated, no doubt, but they had a choice. Okay, what they can write. So, similarly, if you see the domains of Kenya and Nigeria, how they responded to the choice, that is important. Okay, because in India also, in Africa also, during colonial time, their freedom was curtailed to write in whatever they choose. Okay, I was telling you earlier that after independence, now we are speaking about how they dominated us, how they tortured us. But this was not possible to write when they were there in our country. They did not allow, they stopped, they curtailed. Okay, in our own country, we were not given the full power of expression. We had to stop. Okay, so you will see that how these Kenyan and Nigerian writer, they also to some extent did not start with English, but they started in their regional languages. You will see how what do they call Yoruba, I cannot pronounce Yoruba. Okay, how their Yoruba theater, how their Kenyan, prose writings, how they, got reflected, and how after independence, writers, they dared to question about their suppression. Okay, but after independence, before independence, they were punished if they became assertive, if they started questioning about their identity. Before independence, they were questioned, but after that, after independence, they dared to question, how could you do this to us? Okay, so these things are very important to be observed as far as African domain and African literature is concerned. So, like India, Africa also had a lot of issue with the identity of their languages. Okay, so you can see that there's a lot of similarity in perspectives between Africans and between us. Okay, but there is a little bit more dire condition, as I told you, because of the color, because of lot of that racist feeling. Okay, now we'll see Caribbean literature. Caribbean literature again is again a very what you call aesthetically rich literature. Aesthetically means there's a lot of art form, lot of understanding, lot of lot of pleasure you will find in Caribbean literature. Okay, and usually you say that the rise of Caribbean literature came from Anglophone Caribbean literature. Okay, Anglophone means when they started, when Caribbean people wrote in English. Okay, and there was a lot of writing also, and at the same time they had a lot of criticism also on Caribbean Anglophone Caribbean literature. Okay, so this period of Anglophone Caribbean literature, or you can say Anglophone Caribbean aesthetics, this period, this was a period. Okay, and there was a high rise of writing of Anglophone Caribbean literature. So this spanned for about 50 years, from 1930 to 1980. Okay, and during this time, 1930 to 1980, just see the timeline, which very much coincides with our Indian independence and our starting of post-colonial era. 1930 to 1980, this Caribbean writers and Caribbean critics, okay, they now plan that they will do a lot of cultural decolonization. Decolonization means whatever colonization has caused them, they will remove that. So that is decolonization. So they are going to do a lot of decolonization in their country, and that will involve a lot of cultural decolonization. Okay, and they will resist against colonial power, and they will try to have their own national consciousness. Okay, so this phase was very important. The literary production was very high, and it has got a lot of historical value also. Okay, and but remember, in this Caribbean domain, it is mainly result of some certain social and material condition. Okay, so when you talk about Caribbean aesthetics, okay, then you will see that Caribbean writing has to have a lot of acknowledgement from diasporic nature. Okay, so from diaspora means those who have moved from one place to another. Okay, so they have a lot of this diasporic perspective in their writing. Okay, so exactly if you see diaspora, diaspora actually means when you disperse, okay, when you spread, when you move, okay, and it is a biblical term, it comes from the Bible. Okay, actually diaspora in Bible means the scattering or the dispersion of Jews into different countries outside Palestine. Okay, so Jews used to be in Palestine, but when they spread to different parts out of Palestine, that phase in Bible is described as dispersion or diaspora. But if you see presently in our contemporary society, diaspora, as I've already explained, it refers to people who migrate. Okay, they leave their original homeland and they live in different countries. Okay, like I told you, people of India living in America, okay, or even Indian living in Caribbean island. So they are also, that is also Indian diaspora. Okay, so Naipaul is one of the examples of Indian diaspora who wrote from the Caribbean domain. Now, about this domain of Caribbean lands, there's a lot of history involved. Okay. So here you can see that Caribbean islands also had a lot of impact of British colonization. Okay. And there were a lot of ethnic minorities in this place. Many Africans, East Indians, okay, many people from different countries have come here because during British rule they used to do sugar. They have this sugar production in a place called Trinidad. Okay, so many people had migrated here. Okay, by force also they were brought from, say for example, from Africa. That slave trade was going on. From India also many people were taken to these lands and sugar was cultivated. So gradually many Africans, many East Indians, they had settled there because many generations worked there. And even though British left, but they remained because they had worked there for generations. Okay, so these people also, suppose one Indian had gone during before independence, or maybe was forced to go there to work by the British, he stays there, and generation after generation they work there. But actually, their native place, their homeland is where? Is in India. And when they write, okay, when they write literature, so their literature is not Caribbean diaspora, their literature is Indian diaspora. Students, am I able to explain, or I'm just going on and on? Are you able to understand what is this diaspora? Okay. Anyway, so this is what is diaspora, and this agenda for Caribbean literature, you can say that it was located, as I already told you, it started initiated from 1930s and 40s. Okay, so at this time, 1930s and 1940s, this whole Anglophone Caribbean was trying to have a new national consciousness. They wanted, to let out this colonial rule. So during this sensitive phase, there was lot of flux, a lot of disturbance, a lot of unrest, a lot of violence going on, a lot of resistance going on because they wanted their own country. So during this phase, many writers and intellectuals, they are trying to write and they are trying to show what is their cultural identity through their writings. Okay, so also they wrote that they need their separate national identities. Okay, and they don't want this Anglo-centric aesthetic. They want to have their own literature, own aesthetic, own culture, own way and own mode of expression. Okay, so these were actually the writers who started to have the who gave birth to the idea of identity. Okay, so there was a magazine called the Bacon, which was published from Trinidad, and Public Opinion was published from Jamaica. They had a lot of contribution for awakening people to their ideologies, and they this was an awakening call for all the people in the Caribbeans. Okay, and gradually unrest started, and people started to address these issues one after another in their writings. Okay, so here you can see there are many writings. Here Dan is the man. These are all kind of writings of resistance. They are trying to prove themselves. Okay, now moving on. Next comes your South Asian literature. So South Asian literature is mainly Indian, mainly comes from the from the Indian subcontinent, from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and then you can say Sri Lanka also. Okay, now so you can see one of the very famous and very appropriate here, uh, mm, which I must say is Ice Candy Man, written by Bapsi Sidhwa. If you read that novel, learners, you will exactly find what is post-colonial identity in the South Asian domain. Okay, how does it feel? How you feel dominated and suppressed, and then how you feel yourself empowered. If you read Ice Candyman, it is in a very elaborate way. It is giving us the view of of post-colonial identity. So here South Asian includes India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal. Okay, and recently I'm reading a lot of Bhutanese literature also. They are also presently writing very well. So again, you can say that after your syllabus, this particular syllabus was formed, this particular material was formed, Bhutanese literature also came into being. Okay, and people are reading, accepting, and rejoicing Bhutanese literature also. So that also becomes a part of new literature. Okay, Bhutanese literature, but this is not here. So if you see South Asian domain, then it becomes very convenient for us because we are already acquainted with this. Okay, and just like I was discussing that how Franz Fanon had written Black Skin, White Mask, how we pretend to be white. So there are many tales by our Indian writers also, like Raja Rao's Kantapura, or you can see M.M. Dutt and James Alvis, Sri Lankan writers. They are also projecting similar thing, that to a large extent how we want to be like them. Okay, but anyway, if you see Indian writings now, Indian writings, they are becoming very famous, and a lot of critical acclaim has been given to our Indian writings, like Salman Rushdie, Amitabh Ghosh, Chitra Banerjee, Jhumpa Lahiri. So all these writers, they are getting a lot of limelight recently. So they are also a part of new literature. ideas have been discovered by them. Fresh perspectives have been put to light by them, and as a result, they also form a major part of new literature. Okay, so if you see South Asia, you will see India is predominantly very much sensitive and very much active with respect to writing and publishing Indian writing in English. Okay, if you go to Pakistani literature, also you will find there are many good writers writing in Pakistan, writing there. Okay, yeah, Deen Muhammad is there. Okay, so Muhammad Iqbal, Ahmad Ali, these are very famous writers, and you will also see a lot of aesthetics in Pakistani writers. Okay, Zulfikar Ahmad, people of that sort. Then Sri Lankan novels also, they are also read, and their domain is also, their area is also very much different from many other countries, because their culture, their religion is somewhat very much different, and very much needed to be diagnosed. So there's a famous writer, James Alvis. Okay, he is a very much proficient writer in Sinhalese, that is in the Sri Lankan regional writing, and he has also got mastery in English, and he writes a lot about the slave literature. So you can see overall, this perspectives remain same. And if you see Bangladeshi writing, then you can see Taslima Nasreen is very much famous for her Lajja, though she has been exiled because it was controversial. uh, but that is one of the eminent works, Lajja. Then you have Qazi Nazrul Islam, one of the other eminent writers, and there are many others also who from Bangladeshi domain who write very well, and their post-colonial identity is also very nicely. uh, Sadat Hassan Manto from Pakistan. Okay, so these writers are really great from the South Asian domain, and over the years they are being read, and also their idea of post-coloniality is also very nicely and appropriately expressed in their novels, in their writings, and many of them have written short stories as well, short stories, poems. And then comes literature from the margins, like I just touched that, from women's writings. Okay, so female writers here, Bapsi Sidhwa is a female writer. So women writing, when we write from the perspective of women, and how they are subjugated and how they need a center stage to express themselves, that also remains a very important part for South Asian writings. Okay, the great South Asian women writers. And if you see Australian literature, so in Australian literature, you will see that you know they are they also have their own typicality with regard to their geographical and socio-political location. And Patrick White, if you see, he's the great Nobel laureate from Australia. Okay, and nowadays we see that lot of tribal, or what they call aboriginal writing is done. From We read a lot from the tribal perspectives of Australia. We call them aboriginal writings. um, they are also coming into being, and recently I was taking some Australian novels which talk a lot about this global warming and climate crisis. Okay, so Australia also initially, uh, actually, they give emphasis more to the identity of the Aboriginal tribes. Okay, because this Aboriginal identity they consider very important for them, and initially when there was British colonial rule, then British used to say that these aborigines are going to destroy all the cultures. Okay, but the natives, they fought against this ideology. They let out the British. Okay, and they started respecting the aboriginal identity, which is the core identity of the Australians. And they started writing from aboriginal perspectives a lot. Okay, and they tried to show the protest against British, because they were trying to jeopardize the whole identity of the nation. Okay, and they did not believe whatever British were trying to express. So, as a good uh, substantial post-colonial writing, you will see there's a writer called Banjo Patterson, and he's the man from Snowy River, is very famous. Okay, and then there's another, the bulletin is another writing. Okay, written by Henry Lawson, and gradually you see a lot of many Australian writers came up, Jack Davis. Then you can see that gradually writers came, and their national identity they try to form through their writing, mainly from the perspective of the post school, from the aboriginal writers, from the what we call tribe, they call it aboriginal people. So from the aboriginal people, and from the perspective of the common people, they try to express their identity, and they attach themselves a lot with the aboriginal identities, aboriginal people. So they glorified that. So what I'm trying to say, that once when British tried to, try to give them a side of attention, they did not give attention. Australian people, they gave a lot of center stage, a lot of emphasis, a lot of importance to those, what you call, to those aboriginal people. Now, next is line is Canadian literature. Okay, so in the coming days, we'll be reading all these parts of your literature. So, uh, so Canada and the identity of Canada's national literary canon, you can see that it brings again. There also similarly, you can see overall all our perspectives are same. They bring their national literature, okay, Canadian national literature, and they also bound themselves to their nationhood. Okay, so they show how the cultural location, they through their writing they show how Canada is a hub of good culture, and and a good lifestyle. And if you see Canada, then there are a lot of migrants, Indian migrants are there, Inuits are there, which are the locals of that place. Okay, uh, from the Gulf and from Italy, many people from different cultures have been there. Okay, and how they have braved different wars. They had American, they also had faced the American War of Independence. Okay, and after that you can see that a lot of loyalty had to be adjusted, American loyalty had to be adjusted in Canada. Okay, so Canada, you can say, has got a lot of influence from America. Okay, and so here Canada remains as one of the landmarks in the history, because there are four major landmarks in their history. First is their northern character, then they have a historic dependence, then they had monarchical government, and then they had committed themselves to national destiny. So these are the four important factors that had shaped and formed their countries. Okay, and Canada is different from the rest of the America, because it is one of the outcome of the expedition. Okay, because they were seamen farmers, they used to go out for catching fish and for timber sources. So their national identity is mainly from the seaman farmers, and they had a lot of fishery, they had a lot of timber business. Okay, so Canada and their identity mainly comes from these areas, from their seamen farming, catching of fishes, okay, fisheries, and the timber collection. And Britain was very much attracted towards this natural resource that they had. Okay. But again, like other countries, other post-colonial countries, Canada fought against this British dominance, and it freed itself from them. And it now, till now, it contains its own identity, its own business, its own perfection, its own heritage and culture, which is very much concerned with the fisheries, number one, and with the harbors, okay, and with the timber. Now, about the writing, so there is an important work here. So they had a lot of good prose writing also. There's a famous writer here, Francis Brooks. The history of Emily Montagu. It is written. It is the first Canadian novel, very famous. Okay, and again, it is in the letter writing form, and you know, it talks a lot. It has small anecdotes, small stories about the whole culture, the whole, the reality of the Canadian life. Then Margaret Atwood, you must have heard. She's very famous. Handmaid's Tale. She's very famous for Handmaid's Tale, so you can say Alice Munro. But if you see Margaret Atwood and her Handmaid's Tale, it is a very important piece of work as far as feminist studies are concerned. Okay, she talks about how in Canada there was once a rule when females were given a um, lot of torture, and they were only made to the being of production and reproduction only. That is an important piece of work from Margaret Atwood. There are good dramas also in Canada. There are writers like Linda Griffith, Patrick Beamer, John Murrell. They write very substantially, and they write the drama. Okay, so you can see that Michael Untaji has written English Patient, then Pricks Medicine. Hmm. Um, so this is all about today's class. Next class, we will go about very broadly with the in the African context, okay, and how Africa evolved as a post-colonial nation, and how once it was a dark nation, how it was, it was a part of dark politics, that will be seeing very broadly, and then the literature. We'll see that tomorrow at the same time from 6 p.m. So I'm leaving the class for now. Yes, Reshma, anything you want to say?
Thank you. Thank you. Nothing else.
All
Thank
right,
you.
all
Also,
right.
thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.